Welcome to my podcast
with their hosts today, Michaela Anderson
and Younglin Xu.
Okay, so recently after reading Hamlet, it reminded me a lot about the influence of power in today's society.
Yeah, it connects perfectly with the article that we recently found named "It's Getting Harder to Prosecute Politicians for Corruption" from The Conversation, written from the website by Peter J. Henning. He is a professor currently working as a law professor at Wayne State University.
So in the parts when Hamlet killed Polonius accidentally, he got away with it without any penalties because he was the Prince of Denmark.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me because he seemed emotionless after killing Polonius.
Right, and killing someone, of course, is a crime, and I think no matter what power, how much influence you have, you need to be held responsible.
Yes.
It definitely reminds me of how basically a lot of times in most corruption in today's world happens in the campaigning process because a lot of organizations would donate money to candidates in order to help them get a certain bill passed, and oftentimes it's hard to prosecute these crimes because it's hard to tell what is legit and what isn't, and they can put the money under a false name and everything.
Yeah, briberies is very complicated within certain legacies and governments.
Another example of this is when Claudius used Guildenstern and Rosencrantz to spy on Hamlet freely because he's the king of Denmark and the, quote, new father of Hamlet. Obviously that didn't end up well. And he doesn't respect Hamlet's privacy, and so instead he uses his higher-end power to spy on him. And this reminds me of another quote from this article saying that after a passage of this tax bill in December, conservative billionaire Charles Notch and his wife gave nearly $500,000 to House Speaker Paul Ryan's PAC, which I think is crazy.
That's an enormous amount of money too.
Right, and obviously I'm sure there's some favors being passed back and forth because of this.
Yes.
And it's not right for everyday citizens who are trying hard in order to...
Right. It's immoral to do. Oh, yeah. Did you heard about the recent popular college scandal that's happened recently about Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman, the two most, very famous celebrities?
Oh, yes, I did. Oh, my gosh. Don't get me started. It's really frustrating hearing about that because when applying for colleges on our own, it's hard enough, and it's never fun to get these rejection letters, but it's not fair for other people to abuse their power to get into these good schools instead of their academics. Yeah, we haven't gotten accepted probably into all of our schools we wanted to, and it's sad to see that people are just able to use their power of influence and money to get what they want, basically.
Exactly, and I think it connects pretty well with pretty similar to what Hamlet. In Hamlet, Polonius was doing doing the same thing to his daughter and his son, and he used his high position in court and identity as a father to spy on both Ophelia and Laertes. And he took Ophelia's love letter written by Hamlet and read to the king and the queen, which embarrassed her, hurt her self-esteem.
Right.
And Polonius has someone to follow Laertes in order to spy on him too, which is morally unacceptable to do to your kids.
I feel a lot of these people who do have power, I feel like they're almost control freaks, because I feel like they have this idea that, I have all this power, and so now I'm going to make everything go my way because I'm able to do that, essentially, which would be nice for some things, of course.
Yes. And Lori Loughlin doesn't think she deserves to go to prison because she's famous and rich. Everybody knows her, and she thinks she has a higher position than everybody in the society. And a quote from the article is saying that though Loughlin is reportedly terrified of a potential prison potential prison sentence, sources previously claimed that she feels she was manipulated by Singer, and she believes the trial is the only way to clear her name.
Oh, I found that really interesting because I feel like in a way I don't know exactly the extent of how harsh the punishment is to, if quote, someone like you and me would do it, but I also think that courts are making this as an example because there is also a lot of media coverage, but I think that shouldn't matter. I think they are giving the justable amount, and for all I know, she could just be wanting more attention or yeah.
Well, she definitely wants more attention through this scandal, but she probably wouldn't want this to be exposed because she wants her kids to have better education and a better life.
Right.
Okay, now we have a guest from our local government officials, and we have some opinions from...
All right, hello everyone. My name is Eng Podcast. I'm currently a City Planning Commission representative for the City of Troy. With education being one of the main factors in the state of Michigan, I think our Governor Whitmer and State Representative Papakupa have been doing a wonderful job making sure nothing goes wrong in our education for the state of Michigan. With the California crisis, with the two celebrities that are currently serving jail time for what they have done, I think it's very illegal for anyone to put their children into corruption for education, because paying the admissions office to go to a certain college is not right.
So for working in Troy and in your government position, have you ever experienced anyone in a higher position getting away with something that no one, that something like yourself or a normal citizen wouldn't be able to get away with?
Oh yeah, for sure. So about a year ago, our previous city manager, Brian Kishnick, did some really nasty things to the city of Troy. He used taxpayer dollars to use stuff for his private uses. He bought apartments in Somerset, and he was sleeping with city councilwomen, and he was taking them out to Fogo de Chao and Big Beaver and doing ridiculous things to our city. He stole lots of money, and according to the judge in Detroit, he did the Kwame killed Patrick way. So he was basically him for a city, and now he's serving jail time. FBI was at City Hall all the time and across our city trying to investigate what he did, but he did a lot of things and a lot of bad things.
Wow, that's crazy. So in your opinion, do you think money or personal connections have more influence over a person?
I believe money does, because if you pay someone to be your friend, that's kind of the factor here. If you're paying the admissions office to go to a college, it's not the connection. You're paying for the connection. That's what I think.
Okay, so you're almost like investing in that person, like
exactly.
Financially.
Exactly. So you're paying someone to be their friend.
Money talks, you know. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Listeners, today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Troy, Michigan's Troy High student, Megashri. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Today we have a few questions for you about power. Have you ever experienced anyone in a higher position getting away with something that you've got in trouble for doing?
Something that I've witnessed but not necessarily got yelled at for was during clubs and all of that. Usually the higher positioning, presidents of clubs, vice presidents, and all of the board members would be picking favorites. And the people who they pick favorites are the ones who got into it rather than the people who put more effort. Obviously, that's something I've seen and I try not to do, but I think everybody's kind of biased towards some people over another.
Right. And try and be honest for this next question. Have you ever gotten away with something that you weren't supposed to do, but based on your position or relationship with someone, you were able to get away with it?
Yeah, a lot. Mostly at home. I have a younger brother, and obviously with the hierarchy, on top of him, like I'm like above him. So due to that, like they're like small things. Like my mom will be like, you can't eat this until like this, and I'll just take my hot Cheetos and be like, adios. But if my brother does it, she'd be like, I told you not to. But I'd be like, Mom, I'm hungry. I work so hard. All of that. She'd be like, okay, fine. Only this once though.
Okay. Do you think this affects your moral values?
I feel like it depends on to what degree of power we're talking about. Like for morals, like obviously I'm not gonna, like if it's power and like people are abusing it, I'm not gonna do the same thing. But if it's something about like hot Cheetos or petty things, like obviously like it's also like kind of having fun, it's not to like a serious thing. But like if you're talking about more like what people do and like misuse of power with like all the scandals that are going on with the college scandals and like just like things in general, like how politics plays out with power, and that obviously that does affect like morals for everybody. It should, because that's something you should be taking under consideration when you're like meeting new people and all that.
Do you think money or personal connections has more influence over someone?
In what context? In general?
In general.
Okay. So obviously money plays a huge role in what you can do and what you cannot do.
Right.
But I think personal connections is one of the main things, because there are many people who don't have as much money but are still part of many crimes and all of that, because of if they have a personal connection who's like at the top like of anything, they can get them out of it or like bail them out of it. So if you have personal connections, your name is never given out, Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
As our conversation is closing to the end, I would like to talk about the solutions that we can have toward these corruption problems. I feel like we can have more background checks while doing elections on officials and have them be stratified and secured elections, so in order to have like a reliable officials.
Right, and it's important that citizens make sure that these candidates follow a zero bribe policy, and that because it's our job as citizens to make sure our government runs as smoothly as possible, because otherwise if we do have corruption, we aren't a democratic state. Exactly.
And as a student, we can't really do anything big to be able to impact this entire system, government system, and society, but we can start from little things that we can build up to help.
Exactly, like signing petitions and just bringing out the awareness to the general public.
And this is all for today. Have a great day, everybody.
Yes, thank you for joining us.